and thanks for joining. It's Patty from PS Paper Crafts, and I want to show you how to make this pretty card using the Peaceful Cabin stamp set. So I made cards the other day using the new Eden Garden set. This will come out November 2nd. So there's a stamp set, and then there's these dies. And if you looked at my last YouTube, I did a YouTube live showing you how to cut this and make the wreaths on these cards. And I cut the cotton paper with it. And the tip I had was when you cut your cotton paper, because it's very thin, that you also cut a piece of either designer series paper or cardstock to give it some like stiffness to it. So I have these extra pieces. So this was the one of the ones I cut white. So go back and look at my YouTube video on that, on the new Eden's Garden product, and you can see how I cut these behind the tissue paper. So these were kind of leftover pieces. I hope that makes sense. If you cut just the tissue paper, this is the inside of it. It's very thin, and it kind of got all caught in it. So I lined it or used 2 layers. And now I have these extra pieces. So I was like, okay, with the extra pieces, let's make a frame for a card with the cabin. So, and it's kind of lifted up. So let's put these aside. And I have this piece. So this is one of the leftover pieces. And I'm using Evening Evergreen as the card base. And I also cut a piece. I used the stitched rectangles. So this one, I already did the cutting on my my die cutting machine. So this is the 4th size rectangle, and I thought it fit pretty well as a frame for this. So let's get started with this. The first thing I'll do is I will put some adhesive. I'm going to put some glue around here and attach this on. But actually, before we do that, let's just line this up. So these are 4 by 5 1/4, and I just want to make some light pencil marks just in the corners so I know kind of where I'm going to stamp the cabin. Okay, so we'll put that aside. Let's get some liquid glue down here, and I'm just going to put it all around the edges here, the inside, and we'll just put it down a very light amount here. Okay, let's put a little bit more here, and let's put the cap on this. And I love that you can use your leftover pieces. Now this you can use on another card and put a sentiment on it and maybe stamp something. So let's just put this down. Oops. I already have glue on me. I think every time I make a card with liquid glue, I end up with glue on my fingers and I'm moving pieces around. So I think that looks good. Maybe down a little bit. And with the liquid glue, you have a little bit of time to move things. And just get it in the place you want it. So now this is going to pop up over here. And first we're going to stamp the cabin. So I have Evening Evergreen for the tree and then Soft Suede for the cabin. And I have it mounted. And I just want to stay within my 4 corners here. So this is a very easy card to make, but it's a great way to use that extra piece. So let me just pull this down. Hope I'm not in the camera here. I'm trying to see over it. And just stamp it. And if it goes off a little bit, it's okay, you know, outside of there. And then let's get a tree in there. So the trees in the stamp set, they come together. They look like they would be 2 separate stamps, but they actually come together. So I just want this tree. And it's very easy. You don't really have to mask it because there's this big gap there. I suppose you can cut them apart and make them into 2 separate stamps. But we want to put this next to here. And again, if it goes out a little bit, I'm okay with it. And it's funny to be stamping this and having these big trees there. So perfect. So now we can look, isn't that pretty? I love it. So we also want to stamp the sentiment piece, and I just took piece out of here, and this is very easy because everything is straight. Let me just see how much room we have. I'm going to kind of eyeball it to make it go down here. So what I'm going to do, you can color it with a Stampin' Write marker, not a stamping blend, but a Stampin' Write marker if you want. Or you can just cover the words above with some Post-it. And this is so straight, it's very easy to do. That was my dog snoring. I hope you didn't hear him. All of a sudden he made a big snore. He sitting by my side, my little Bailey, always hanging out with me. So I want to ink this up, and I'm just protecting the other words from getting ink on them. The big thing is you want to lift this up and throw it away. You don't want this ink to go back down on your paper. Okay. And then we can get this right about here. And again, I'm eyeballing it. You could try to measure it if you wanted. So I thought that was nice, just the one word. You don't even have to put a word on it if you don't want. And then what I did was instead of using dimensionals, I used these foam adhesive sheets. You get 6 of them in a pack. And they're like the dimensionals, but they give you a little bit more, I guess, firmness. And I just will cut them down. And I want to cut it, let me do these strips first. So just cut it with your scissors. It doesn't really matter if it's perfectly straight, but it gives it a nice, strong backing. So there's no spots that are kind of hanging out there. Let's see. So this one will be here. And then we'll cut another one for the top piece. And then we'll cut a couple of side pieces. So maybe we'll do it this way. Very easy to cut, and then you can use, you know, whatever size you want. And instead of like just lining it with all these dimensionals, it just makes it a little bit easier. So we'll put these here. But it is, when you put it down, you've got to have it lined up right. Otherwise, you can't lift it up. That's the only thing about it. Let me cut this off. I cut that a little bit funny. Okay, so we'll just take all the strips off, and I'm actually going to put the straight edge up here and just go right across. I hope I'm in camera here. And we'll do this one. Now you will have the corners, a little spot there maybe. Let's see how this works. And you could put a dimensional there, but I think it's so nice that it really makes the whole thing kind of strong. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but let's see. This might be too long. I think I'll put it right like this and cut it, and then maybe I'll cut those other 2 squares off and put them in the corner. So that worked out pretty good. So just put that there and that there. Okay, so we have this all down, and we'll just take the backing off. Oops. Okay, I've really been making a lot of Christmas cards, so by the time Christmas comes, everybody's going to get a different card. I stopped making all the same cards because I make so many cards to do videos and blog posts and stuff. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give everybody a different card this year. Sometimes I have 2, like when I do a video, I have 2 of each. So I want to get right over this and make sure, excuse my head, I want to make sure it's lined up. There we go. So it just looks like a frame, and I thought it was really pretty. And then we can put this on here, and I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue and put it right down. And this will give us a little border. There we go. Make sure it's straight. Okay, and then on the inside, I use the same sentiment. And I actually want to clean this because I'm going to stamp this side. I like the tall and the small tree. So let me just show you. You can do the one tree over here. If you did these, it would be tall and then small, and for some reason I didn't like that. So let me get my chamois, and I want to clean this good. Okay, that looks good. So let's do our trees. And these trees are really pretty. They really stamp beautifully. Let's make sure it's inked up good. And I guess the other tree would have just gotten my mat full of ink if I didn't clean it good, not the card. Oh, I didn't get a good coverage, so let's flip it over. That's why it's good for both sides. Use both sides of your cardstock if you make a mistake. All right, let's try this again. I'm going to just press it here. I don't think I got good pressure on it before. Perfect. Okay, let's hope the sentiment. Did I do the sentiment? I did it in the green as well. And that's already mounted. So let's get, may you enjoy the peace of this beautiful season. How perfect is that? Make sure I've got the good pressure. There we go. And I love that it's got the script down below, or the cursive, showing my age there. So I'm going to put this down with some Stamp and Seal. I used the liquid glue on this one because it had some thickness to it. And I go back and forth with liquid glue and Stamp and Seal. I like them both, but I like to use the Stamp and Seal on the inside layer because I find sometimes the liquid glue will show a little, it will show through a little bit. So the last thing we want to do is put on some of these sequins. So these are the subtle shimmer sequins. So let's put these on with my take your pick tool. So I'm actually going to use the putty end and pick them up. And this is always a struggle for me. So just bear with me. Okay, so I don't know if you saw I was going back and forth. Some of these are big and some are little and some are silver and some are white. So I wanted the small white ones. So sometimes I picked up a silver one or a large one or multiple ones. So that was my struggle here. So I have them all laid out, and now I just want to put a little dot of glue. I just want to make sure this doesn't have glue on it. I feel like I'm sticking, it's sticking to it. So I'm going to just pick it up, put a little dot of glue, and then put it down. And then I'm just going to take this end of it and press them down a little bit just to make sure they're lined up over the glue. Get them just in the right place. And I should probably clean these off because I think I get glue on the tool, and then the next time I use it, the things stick to it. So there you have it. This is the card. I think they're both pretty. So they're both different papers, and this is from the Ever Eden paper, and I went through that. I went through all the sheets on my last blog post, or my last YouTube, so if you want to check that out. So this was one pattern that I cut out, and then this is the other one. And I love that there's a lot of patterns that you can cut out that, you know, are just kind of background patterns, and then you can use it for a leafy floral kind of cutout. But anyway, thanks for joining. If you like this, give me a thumbs up, follow me. I do YouTube lives on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's the time I'm kind of settling into. So join me for a live or come back and watch the replay. Thanks and have a good day.